Dear learners, I am Dr.Georgee K.I., Professor in Commerce and former Principal of Mar Ivanios College, Trivandrum. I welcome you to my session on Managerial Economics. This video lecture is structured in the form of a revision that would help you to write your examination with confidence and ease. We will discuss the main topics along with the important questions from the examination point of view. Dear learners, Managerial Economics is a 4-credit course under the CBCS system for the students of FDP in Commerce and Management under many universities in India, including the University of Kerala. Today, let us discuss the topic Business Cycles. The focus areas of this session include the meaning and definitions of business cycles, phases of business cycles, characteristics of business cycles, causes of business cycles, various theories of business cycles, measures to minimize the effects of business cycle, control of business cycles, and the use of business cycles in business decisions. Firstly, let us discuss the meaning and definitions of business cycle. The wave-like fluctuations or ups and downs in the level of aggregate economic activity is referred to as business cycle or trade cycle. I repeat, the wave-like fluctuations or ups and downs in the level of aggregate economic activity is referred to as business cycle. It affects the aggregate employment, income, investment, and output. The upward movement of business activity reaches a point of climax, which is termed as peak, and the downward movement reaches a bottom point termed as trough. A movement from peak to peak or from trough to trough completes a business cycle. So, what is a business cycle? The wave-like fluctuations or ups and downs in the aggregate economic activity. It affects the employment, income, investment, and output. There are peak and trough position. The upward movement of the business activity reaches the climax point called peak, and the downward movement reaches the bottommost point termed as trough. Now let us discuss the definitions of business cycles. According to Keynes, a trade cycle is composed of periods of good trade characterized by rising prices and low unemployment percentages, shifting with periods of bad trade characterized by falling prices and high unemployment percentages. According to Haberler, the business cycle in the general sense may be defined as an alternation of periods of prosperity and depression of good and bad trade. Now, let us discuss the phases or stages of business cycle. There are 4 phases or stages of business cycle. In this diagram, there are 2 axes, x-axis and y-axis. In x-axis, time is recorded, and in y-axis, economic activity is recorded. There is a straight line which shows the normal activity and ups and down line which shows the various phases of business cycle. The first phase is boom or prosperity period. Second phase is recession period. Third is depression, and the fourth one is recovery. Then the climax point of prosperity is peak, and the bottom point of the depression is trough. So let us discuss in detail about all these four phases. The first phase is boom, which is also known by the name prosperity or expansion. This phase means a state in which the real income consumed, the real income produced, and the level of employment are higher or rising. The economic activity gathers momentum, demand for consumer goods increases, existing firms utilize idle capacity and then expand, and new business units come up. This creates demand for capital goods industries flourish, and there is increased investment. The bank credit expands, increased demand for resources, resulting increased wages, costs, and prices. Increase in price is faster than increase in cost, resulting in increase in profit. There is hectic economic activity. Wholesalers and retailers stock more to meet the increased demand. Producers produce more to meet the requirement of the dealers. In this process of expansion, even the most inefficient factors are employed at higher rates. New investment takes place and capital market becomes active. All these bring up the economy to the peak. The second phase is recession, which is also known as contraction. Boom cannot last indefinitely. It carries with it the seeds of next phase, that is recession. At the peak of boom, there is full employment. Wages, costs, prices, and investments increase, and the quality of the products suffers. Costs overtake price, and the firms start incurring losses. Further increase in price leads to further decrease in demand for consumer goods. Stocks pile up, leading to curtailment of production. There is retrenchment of employees, which affects capital goods industries, and the capital market becomes less active. Firms are forced to liquidate their stock at lower prices to meet their debt obligations, and margin of profit disappears. This phase leads the economy to depression. The third phase is depression or slump. During the phase of depression, economic activity is at its low ebb. Wages, costs, and prices are very low. There is massive unemployment, leading to a fall in the aggregate income of the people. This brings down the purchasing power of the community. General demand falls faster than production. The piled up stock are sold at very high rate of discount, leading to heavy loss to the firms. People postpone buying in anticipation of further fall in prices. Production is curtailed. There is no demand for bank credit even at lower rates of interest. Capital market crashes, and less efficient and inefficient units are forced to close down. All these will have cumulative effect and lead to further agony and despair. The economy is in the grip of pessimism. This leads the economy to trough. The fourth phase is recovery or revival. The period of depression will in itself have the seeds of recovery. Pessimism gives way to optimism, and rays of hope appear. The shrewd businessmen identify the climate to be favorable for business activities. Even very efficient factors are unemployed and are available at very cheap rates. Banks with idle funds come forward with liberal terms of lending. This stimulates employment. Income of the people increases, leading to increase in purchasing power. Consumers who have postponed their buying in anticipation of the further fall in prices start buying. Stocks are liquidated. This leads to further increase in production of consumer goods. The firms earn profit, wages and prices go up, repairs, renewals and replacement take place, the economic activities gain momentum and a state of normalcy is restored. Now let us discuss the features or characteristics of business cycle. Number one, wave-like fluctuations. Business cycle has a wave-like fluctuation. The periods of boom and depression occur alternatively. Number two, recurring in nature. The four phases of trade cycle repeat themselves with some sort of regularity. Number three, trade cycles are not identical. No two trade cycles are identical, but they are similar in general features. The causes, impact, and the periodicity of two trade cycles may not be the same. Number four, steep fall towards depression. The upward movement towards boom is slow and steady, but the downfall is steep, sudden, and often violent, causing disaster all around. Number five, synchronic in nature. The different phases of trade cycle occur almost simultaneously in different industries. Number six, cumulative and self-reinforcing. Once the movement starts in one direction, it gathers momentum from within and keeps moving towards the next phase. Number seven, pervasive in nature. The wave of prosperity or depression in one sector of the economy creates similar changes in other sectors of the economy. It is international in character and affects other economies as well. The last point is duration. The duration of trade cycles may vary from a minimum of 2 years to a maximum of 12 years.
Dear learners, so far we have discussed the meaning and definitions of business cycles, phases of business cycles, and the characteristics of business cycles. Now, let us see the probable questions from these areas. What is business cycle? Definition of business cycle. What is peak? What is trough? State the definition of business cycle given by Keynes. What are the stages of business cycle? What is boom or prosperity or expansion? What is recession or contraction? What is depression or slump? What is recovery or revival? What are the characteristics of business cycles?
There are many reasons or causes for the emergence of trade cycle. They are: number one, changes in money supply. Money supply varies according to the monetary policy of any country. The money supply mainly depends on the bank rate policy of the central bank of a country. When the bank rate is reduced, the money supply increases, whereas when it is increased, the money supply decreases. Number 2, purchasing power and the supply of goods. Changes in the proportion between purchasing power of the community and the supply of goods results in changes in trade cycles. Number 3, production of capital goods and consumer goods. Changes in the proportion between production of capital goods and consumer goods causing shortage or surplus in the supply of consumer goods results in changes in trade cycle. Fourth point is changes in the level of production. Changes in the level of production with a view to maximizing profit affect the demand for raw material, labor, plant, etc., causing fluctuation in the level of economic activity. This will in turn result in changes in trade cycle. Number 5, climatic conditions. Climatic conditions affect the agricultural sector, and this in turn will have its impact on other sectors of the economy as well. These changes result in changes in trade cycle. And the last point is changes in human psychology. Changes in human psychology cause changes in the level of economic activity, leading to the results in changes in cyclical phenomena. The next portion is theories of business cycle. There are many theories on business cycle. They are generally classified as non-monetary theories and monetary theories propounded by noted economics to explain the causes of trade cycles. There are 4 theories included under non-monetary theories. They are climatic theory, psychological theory, innovation theory, and underconsumption theory. So let us discuss one by one. So there are 4 theories under the head non-monetary theories. The first one is climatic theory, which is also known by the name harvest or sunspot theory. This is one of the oldest theories of trade cycle propounded by the noted economist G. Vance. According to climatic theory, changes in the climatic conditions occurring periodically is the root cause of trade cycles. There are favorable and unfavorable climatic conditions. G. Vance argued that sunspots appear on the surface of the sun at regular intervals, causing emission of heat from the sun. This influences rainfall followed by bumper crop. The prosperity in the agriculture sector initially influences agro-based industries and then spreads to other sectors of the economy. When this is followed by bad climate and crop failure, the reverse will happen. Thus, once the ball is set in motion, it causes fluctuations in the economic activities. The second theory is psychological theory. Professor A.C. Pigot is the proponent of this theory. He is of the opinion that waves of optimism and pessimism occur in human minds on slightest provocations. A slight increase in price creates waves of optimism in the minds of business people. Leading firms, in anticipation of increasing prices and profit, expand their activities. Other firms follow it. This creates an atmosphere of prosperity. Production is further increased to reap huge profits. When the demand for input increases, cost of production also increases and profit margin decreases. On account of increase in price, demand for goods and profit decrease. Decreasing profit creates waves of pessimism. Stock pile up, firms incur loss. Production curtailed, leading to unemployment. The reverse trend keeps on until the bottom is reached. After some time, recovery takes place again. Then the third theory is innovation theory. According to Joseph Schumpeter, innovation in the field of business causes trade cycle. By innovation, he means changes in the methods of production of new articles, changes in the organization, opening new markets, development of new sources of raw materials, etc. In order to put the innovative ideas into practice, inputs are drawn at higher prices from other users. Competitive firms also follow the same path. There is all-round increase in demand for resources, leading to increase in income and demand for consumer goods. This is expansion phase. Ultimately, it leads to stagnation. Supply overtakes demand, profit disappear, recession takes place, leading to depression. The fourth theory is underconsumption theory, which is given by J.A. Hobson. The proponents consider underconsumption to be the main cause of trade cycle. In a capitalist economy, there is wide disparity in the distribution of income and wealth. The rich people with huge savings make investment when they find the business environment to be favorable. This results in increased supply. The demand should come from poor people whose propensity to consume is high. But with poor purchasing power of the low income group, demand does not increase in sympathy with supply. This leads to a glut in the market and depression sets in. The basic weakness of this theory lies in the assumption that the entire savings are invested. Now, let us come to the monetary theories. There are two theories included under this head. The first one is Hartrey's pure monetary theory, and the second one is Hicks theory of multiplier accelerator interaction. So let us discuss one by one. The first one is Hartrey's pure monetary theory. R.G. Hartrey holds the view that credit policies of the commercial banks cause trade cycle. During periods of low economic activity, banks are left with huge funds. Rate of interest would be low. Firms which find favorable business environment borrow funds at low rates of interest and make investment. This increases the demand for inputs. Cost of production, price and profit increase. The income of the community increases, leading to further increase in demand for commodities. Business prospects are bright. The demand for bank credit increases for building up stock in anticipation of huge profits. The rate of interest goes up, cost of production increases, and profit margin decreases. Stocks pile up. This marks the peak of prosperity. The banks realize that reserve ratio falls. On account of safety and statutory consideration, banks recall loans. The firms find it difficult to meet their obligations and liquidate stock at discounted price to repay the loans. They suffer loss and curtail production, leading to unemployment and further decrease in demand for commodities. A reverse trend sets in and reaches the trough through a period of recession. The second monetary theory is Hicks theory of multiplier accelerator interaction. J.R. Hicks multiplier accelerator interaction theory is most modern and considered sound in explaining the trade cycles. It is based on interaction between the multiplier process and the accelerator principle. So let us look into these two concepts, multiplier process and accelerator principle. A multiplier exists when a change in one variable induces multiple and successive stages of change in second variable. An initial investment generates an income by a multiple of it determined by the marginal propensity to consume. Marginal propensity to consume is the ratio of change in the consumption to the change in the income. As income increases, consumption also increases. The increase in consumption will be less than the increase in income. An investment made by one is income in the hands of the recipient of this amount. The second person saves a portion of it and spends the rest to generate income, again in the hands of the recipient. This process repeats itself and the initial investment becomes income by a multiple of the original investment. This is the multiplier effect. According to the principle of acceleration, an increase in income induced by increase in investment creates further increase in investment. I repeat, an increase in income induced by increase in investment creates further increase in investment. As income of the people increases, spending power also increases. Consumers spend more on goods and services. This will induce businessmen to expand their activities by making further investment. The accelerator is the numerical measure of the relationship between income and the resultant increase in investment. Interaction between multiplier and accelerator will result in cumulative movement in income and investment. If income rises at an increasing rate, both investment and consumption will rise, causing further increase in income and investment. The process continues till the level of full employment is reached. Once economic activity touches the peak, further expansion is not possible. Now, income increases at a decreasing rate. It causes decrease in investment and income. Both multiplier and accelerator move in this reverse direction. But during the downswing, the accelerator does not operate as fast as it does during upswing, because fixed investments cannot be reduced all on a sudden. Therefore, the downswing is not very much violent. The economy now reaches the trough. Again, forces of revival work and the economy moves up. Hicks assumes a rigid consumption investment function. The constant multiplier based on constant marginal propensity to consume is also not realistic. Marginal propensity to consume varies with changes in the level of income, price, taste, etc. The principle of acceleration is also not supported by valid studies. As in the case of multiplier, accelerator may also not remain constant throughout a phase of trade cycle. Hicks ignores other complex factors influencing trade cycles.
Moving on to the possible questions. Causes of business cycles. The theories of business cycles, which includes non-monetary theories and monetary theories. Explain the climatic theory. Explain Pigue's psychological theory of business cycle. State and explain the innovation theory of business cycle. State the underconsumption theory of business cycle. Describe how trace pure monetary theory of business cycle. Explain the Hicks theory of multiplier accelerator interaction. What is multiplier process? What is accelerator principle?
The next topic is the measures adopted by a firm to minimize the effects of business cycles. The business cycles cannot be altogether eradicated. However, economics suggests that business firms should adopt measures to minimize the effects of business cycles. These measures are called preventive measures and relief measures. Firstly, let us discuss the preventive measures. The preventive measures should be undertaken by the firms during the prosperity period in order to avoid the adverse effect of a sudden crisis. These are steps which are designed to eliminate the causes that breed economic crisis. The following are the measures adopted to remove the causes of maladjustments. Number 1, conservation of assets during expansion by avoiding too much of an increase in plant and equipment. Number 2, maintaining a satisfactory level of labor supply and steady employment of additional factors. Number 3, avoiding purchase commitment beyond the financial capacity of the firm. Number 4, conservation of the capital assets of the firm and see that inventories do not increase or decrease excessively. Number 5, creation of reserve funds to provide sufficient buffer in periods of recession. Number 6, avoiding overinvestment, overexpansion and oversales, especially during a boom. Number 7, seeing that overhead cost per unit does not go up. Number 8, employing a flexible credit standard and undertaking credit planning so that the terms and conditions can be tightened during expansion and relaxed during contraction. Number 9, soundness in judgment in placing and accepting orders. Now, let us discuss relief measures or curative measures. The relief measures are to be undertaken to deal with the problems arising from recession and depression. These are designed to improve upon the ill effects of cyclical fluctuation and to quicken the process of recovery following a period of recession. The major measures adopted to reduce the adverse effect of contraction are: number 1, reduction of cost of production through the proper streamlining of the production process. Number 2, proper monitoring of cost of production and its reduction. Number 3, improving the quality of output and adopting methods of marketing for giving fillip to sagging demand. Number 4, designing the plant and machinery in such a way that it is flexible enough to meet the challenges of the contraction phase. Number 5, improving plant organization and management in such a way to enable the introduction of new innovations and technology. Number 6, changing sales methods and strategies so as to adjust to new situation. Number 7, transferring surplus labor into other departments having shortage. And finally, the utilization of a part of retained earnings. Now, let us discuss the control of business cycles. Business cycles cause economic instability leading to unemployment and poverty. Till 1930, the general feeling was that economic fluctuation would be automatically regulated by the invisible market forces. The Great Depression of 1930s was an eye-opener to all, and the need for government interference and regulation was widely accepted. The contra-cyclical policies of the government can be broadly classified into monetary policies and fiscal policy. So let us discuss one by one the monetary policies and the fiscal policies. Firstly, the monetary policies. Monetary policies refers to the measures resorted by the central bank of a country with a view to regulating credit. Monetary policies are the measures resorted by the central bank of a country in view to regulating credit. Various measures are designed to expand credit during the periods of depression and to contract credit during periods of boom. The major measures of credit control includes number 1, change in bank rate. Bank rate is the rate at which central bank discounts bills and securities held by the commercial banks. During period of inflation, central bank will raise the bank rate to reduce the volume of borrowings by commercial banks. The commercial banks in turn will raise their lending rate in tune with the increase in bank rate. When borrowing becomes costly, borrowing diminishes and the money supply in the economy also diminishes. This reduces the demand for goods and services and controls expansion beyond limits. During periods of depression, bank rate will be reduced to make borrowing cheap so that economic activity may be stimulated. The second measure is open market operation. Open market operation implies purchase and sale of government securities by the central bank. During periods of inflation, the central bank sells securities. This helps withdrawal of money in circulation. The demand for goods and services diminishes and the general price level comes down. During depression, when the central bank buys securities from the public, money is pumped into the economy to increase the purchasing power of people. This measure helps to improve the level of economic activity. The third measure is change in variable reserve ratio. Commercial banks are bound by statute to maintain a certain portion of their deposits with the central bank. During periods of expansion, the central bank will increase the cash reserve ratio so that the capacity of commercial banks for creation of credit may be restricted. This will bring down the demand for goods and services and prices will be regulated. During depression, the reserve ratio will be lowered to obtain the effect opposite to the above. The next is fiscal policies. Fiscal policies refers to the taxation and public expenditure policies of the government with a view to regulating the level of economic activity. Number 1, taxation policy. During periods of boom, the government will increase the rate of taxation to bring a reduction in the disposable income of the people. Reduction in the purchasing power reduces the demand for goods and services and regulates prices. When rate of taxation is reduced during depression, the disposable income of the people increases, causing a stimulation in demand for goods and services. This helps revival of the economy. The next is public expenditure. During periods of depression, government undertakes public works. This has the effect of pumping money into the economy to stimulate the demand for goods and services. This enhances the economic activity to bring the economy to a level of normalcy. During boom, government cuts short public expenditure to regulate the supply of money. This act of government restricts the demand for goods and services and maintains economic stability. Any one of these measures applied in isolation may not bring the desired result. A proper combination of various measures applied judiciously may bear the fruit. Now let us look into the uses of business cycle in business decision. The business decisions are very often influenced by the business cycle. The following are the major points related with the business cycle, the use of business cycle in business decision. Number one, demand forecasting. See, the phase of recovery and boom generate optimism among business people. So during this period, they expect high demand for their products. So in order to meet the demand, they produce more by utilizing all available factors of production. When the economy slips into recession and depression, there arises a feeling of pessimism and they expect only low demand for their products. So demand forecasting is possible with the help of the phase of business cycle. Second point is that price fixing. The price, in fact, is the source of revenue which the firm seeks to maximize. Whether to set a low price or a high price would depend upon a number of factors and wide variety of conditions. In boom period, high price can be fixed. However, in the depression stage, only low price can be fixed. Therefore, a clear understanding of the business cycle, the phase of business cycle, helps in the fixation of selling price. Number three, expansion schemes. Expansion of existing business and establishment of new enterprise depend on the general trend of the economy. During the phases of revival and boom, the entrepreneurs, being optimists, should chalk out schemes of expansion and establishment of new enterprise. But during the phase of recession and depression, as the traces of pessimism sets in, the businessmen should stand away from any sort of expansion schemes. Number four, introduction of new products. A new product means a totally innovative product or an improvement over an already existing product. As regards a totally innovative product, there is no competing product in the market. Therefore, there is no standard to compare with. But the introduction of any product, whether innovative or other products, and its penetration into the market would be easier during the phase of revival and boom. During the phases of recession and depression, it is advisable not to introduce any new product in the market. Number five, shut down or continue. Often, managements are faced with the problem of closure of the department or discontinuance of a product. If a department or product contributes at least something to the organization, it is better to continue with the department or product. During depression, certain products or departments may not be able to contribute anything to the profit. The department can be continued till its revenue is at least equal to its marginal cost. Number six is inventory management. By the end of economic boom, there is every chance of accumulation of inventories. It may be in the form of finished goods, work in progress, or raw materials. On slipping the economy to recession and depression, as the demand for the product suddenly decreases, the management should take decisions to sell out the piled up stock of finished goods at the earliest, even at a reduced price. The purchasing policy of the business should also be revised so as to avoid accumulation of raw materials. The seventh point is make or buy decision. While deciding as to make or buy, a distinction must be made between fixed cost and variable cost. The variable cost of manufacturing the product must be compared with the price at which the product can be bought from the outside market. It is advisable to manufacture within the organization if the variable cost of the product is lower than its purchase price. But during depression, sometimes the purchase price may go much below the marginal cost. In such a situation, it would be advisable to buy from outside till the phase of revival sets in.
To the possible questions from this area, state the measures adopted by a firm to minimize the effects of business cycles. State the preventive measures. State the relief measures or curative measures. Explain the control of business cycles. What are the contra-cyclical policies of the government to control business cycle? What are the monetary policies to control business cycles? What do you mean by fiscal policies? What do you mean by change in bank rate? What is open market operation? What do you mean by variable reserve ratio? What are the methods included under fiscal policies? How taxation can be effectively used for controlling business cycle? What should be the public expenditure policy during different phases of business cycle? Explain how the business decisions are influenced by the business cycles. How the price is fixed during the various phases of business cycle. What expansion policy is to be adopted during prosperity and what is to be adopted at the time of depression? When new products can be introduced in the market? We have come to the end of this session on business cycles. We will meet again with more videos on related topics. So keep watching and prepare well. All the best, dear learners. Thank you.